Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course from New Earth One Network. This is designed exclusively for your higher self connection and embodiment. I'm Loren Gailey, and my guests today are here to talk about the divine human. And their story of connection is one of synchronicity and resonance. Jules Arnes is here with Infinite Gold. She makes high vibrational products. And Dr. Charan Sudhar is here. Both are charting new waters in the research that they're doing. Let's welcome both of these beautiful women to Quantum Conversations once again. Hello, Jules. Hello, Charan.
Thank you, Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
We've got a beautiful topic to go into, and this has to do with DNA and actually shifting not only our reality, but shifting on a physical level. Let's start with the two of you. You both, Dr. Charan, you do work in DNA and epigenetics, and Jules, you deal with the frequency and actually doing this on weight loss and all of it, anti-aging, because both of you recognize our ability to shift our reality and shift our physicality. So start with how the both of you met and came to do this work together.
Well, it was my birthday in December, and I had been aware of Jules and her work for a few months before that. And I was inspired that week to actually book a session with her for OMcodes. And that session was brilliant, and she's brilliant. And at the end, she said to me, would you like to collaborate? And I was kind of taken aback. And then Jules, you can take it from there.
Well, first I should say why I even asked her that, because I actually didn't know anything that she did. It was just, it was a session, and I went into it thinking of, okay, let's meet her in her high self and bring her into the healing that she was asking for. But it was really interesting because when her code was coming in, there was this other code that kind of came over on the side. And normally I won't pay attention to those because it just means that they're there if we ever wanted to go retrieve them, but it wasn't important to come in for her. But I looked over and it was a collaboration code. And it was a collaboration code that I hadn't seen before. So it really was intriguing, though during her session, I didn't say much about it. And then at the end, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go back and visit that code. And I got the hit to ask her if she would be interested in collaborating. And I think the next day we ended up talking, and we talked for hours and decided that we needed to start working together and that there was something that was clearly trying to come through.
But I want to
So
add that we weren't actually even sure how we were going to collaborate or what was going to show up. We're both really used to sort of stepping into that unknown space and allowing for things to show up. And I'm so grateful that we both did that, because the journey in just a few months has been amazing.
the world thanks you for stepping on that journey as well, because you've brought together an advanced new energetic technology. And there's a way that all of our viewers and listeners can access this. We're going to talk about a special offer that you guys are including. But first, I want to say, when you guys get together and talk like that, Jules, you saw the code. It's as if there was a past lifetime. And now you're both coming together. Did you guys sense that work that you've done in the past?
That just gave me chills. I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, it gave me chills too, because definitely there's a, a total yes to that question, and the work that's sort of unraveled from that. I think we're going to discuss it a little bit more in a few minutes and so on this session, but it involves an ancient temple and how we're been seeing things and how things have started to unravel from that place, right, Jules?
Absolutely. It was funny because one day we were talking and I started to describe this. It was like a building, and I started describing it, and she was seeing the same thing. And it was just this really bizarre thing where we were both almost in the same space, saying what it was that we saw. And a lot of it is kind of has the feeling of the Atlantean and just kind of bringing back that frequency. But even beyond that, it's just this place of where we're connecting and how we both are in that same space. And so it almost doesn't even matter what the past was or even what the future is, because what is being created within that space, there really isn't a past or a future. We're just in it, if that makes sense.
How did that collaboration unfold? Share each a little bit about the work that you each do and how it came together.
So my work has really been about, working with DNA, and I worked 13 years in the laboratory with DNA, and then after that, it's just been with the energetics of it. But in our collaboration, as we were like discussing, we were talking, it just felt like, I think I remember, Jules, like the first conversation that we had, it was that feeling of like science and spirit coming together. So my background being with the science, but yet there is that spirituality, but really have that spiritual aspect to it. And it just felt like all of it was so perfect. And we even kind of realized, without even having intended, that my logo is Gene Ohm and yours is OMcodes, and it was just like everything about it was just coming together in all ways.
So beautiful. I think that, and it's funny because I've always had this feeling that I was going to, at some point in my work, start working with somebody that was really knowledgeable in the DNA, because, with own codes, that's what I'm working with. It's no longer just with DQ. I'm working with the belly of the cell, or not the nucleus. And then with own codes, we're actually entering the nucleus and working with DNA expression. And she just came in at just this perfect time, right, where I was getting ready to teach codes. And it's just been this really beautiful place. It's really interesting how it was like we just started following the breadcrumbs, and we would both have little hits, and we'd text each other or share it with each other, and then we'd meet a couple times a week, and every single time just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more would come together. And that's when you really know that spirit is at work, because it's so beyond anything that we could come up with on our own, and how they just work together, and the synchronicity between the two is just so beautiful. And I have to say that here we are, and we're getting ready to launch this, and we have had a few people kind of beta testing it. And oh gosh, like it almost takes my breath away, because I'm like literally about to cry. It is so much more powerful than I would have ever expected. And it's literally going to change lives. I just don't even know it, and this is just the beginning. Like, we've just began.
I remember, Jules, as well, that, one of the first conversations we had, we both discovered that our mission on this planet was pretty much the same. And we both were in tears. I remember, well, I was anyway, just sort of like saying that we're here to eradicate all disease on the planet. And that moment I remember, and it's just that both of us connected in that way to do it. It just came together so beautifully.
So beautiful.
And when it is aligned in that way, I'm getting goosebumps now. When it is aligned in that way, it goes so quickly, very quickly. Things move very quickly. And I think this is a beautiful time where we're actually living that. Our experience of it shows us that when we come together in collaboration like this, and it is in the highest align for humanity, and how this is really helping on so many things. There's a lot of fear going on in our world with our pandemic and with the treatments for that, and maybe some mandatory jabs in the arm, which there's nothing. What this tells us in the most optimist way is that there's nothing to be fearful of, no matter what we face. This work with the DNA, so we know about epigenetics for the most part, that we do have an ability to change our DNA, and this goes into consciousness. So with the work that you both come together to bring forward this new technology, what is this new development then, and how you collaborated? It's called something for the divine human.
I think, so my passion is, you hear me say it all the time, the new human. And lately it's like, well, are we even human at that point when we really shift into this new space? And it's, we're something different. And, but the DNA expression is in the divine alignment. And with OMcodes, it was every time we worked together, I'm like, oh, that's OMcodes. Oh, that's OMcodes. But what I realized as we continued to work, that it's what's after OMcodes. And it's, with OMcodes, we were learning how to become something different by our cellular structure taking on different levels of consciousness. And with OMcodes, we start to bring in the reflection of the DNA, of the divine reflection within the DNA expression. And I have this whole thing, it's about, okay, just turn it inside out, just turn it inside out, just turn it inside out. So it's not about going out there to create change. It's about turning that inside out and pushing out in order to create change. And so within the ohm codes, we're using different codes or number of frequencies in order to create a pattern of an expression. And now with the work that that Charan and I are doing, we have found a way to create a very specific transition of energy, or an energetic tool that is created by very, very specific symbols, or a code of a symbol. I'm not even really sure how to say it, but it's something about how it's all working together that is bringing that work to the next level. And it's within that space and bringing it into the DNA expression that we're able to literally shift form. And I'll have to tell you a funny story, but I'll go ahead and let Charan kind of jump in and talk.
Yeah, well, you said it really beautifully. And what I want to add to that is that the DNA expression, that's something that I have always been, as an epigeneticist, is that our beliefs, the things on the outside are what our emotions, all of those that create our perceptions actually influence the way that our DNA is expressed. And I've always said that it's actually, we can turn it around and it be an expression from the inside out, where it's our spirit, or if you want to call it the quantum field that exists inside of us, that when expressed through that, because their DNA is like, it's got antenna that it can pick up frequencies and it will respond to that. So by connecting with that inner part of ourselves, that infinite, it then changes its expression to be in alignment with that, rather than being in alignment with the beliefs and the perceptions that we have in life as a result. So it completely changes the way we see things. And the way that things have unfolded, like Jules just said, is exactly that, that it's come through from the inside out. And what was interesting in our conversations was I just loved, because every moment we were like, oh my God, it's this. Oh my God, it's this. And I was connecting the science to it. And one of the things that, because, we're talking about how does that spirit then come into the DNA? Like, how does it interact with the physical? And we were discussing the hydrogen atom and how that creates an electrical impulse, and the fascia in the body, and how that has an impact on the whole body, because once that electrical impulse of that infinite is connected, you're connected to it, the fascia then becomes sort of the transmitter into every cell of the body to allow for the body to align to that infinite. So it was just wonderful, like how things were unfolding. And then the science of it was coming to us about how it was so pertinent and so powerful.
There was one part about the hydrogen atom that I just wanted to bring in. And this is what I love about when we have collaboration. It's just another way of spirits confirming, like, yes, keep going with that. Yes, keep going with that. And, I've been working with the hydrogen atom for about 6 years now, and I never knew why. I just was told I use it in my activations. I bring it into the cell. I do a lot of, timeline work, and because you can manipulate or change form by using the hydrogen atom on an energetic level. And so hearing the science behind this and everything that Charan just said, it's mind-blowing how we can get these hits and we can start to co-create with the divine, and we don't always know why we're doing it, and until much later when we have different people come in, or those collaborations come in, and then we're like, oh, well, that's why I've been doing it. And then it just starts to explode and it gets so much bigger, and then you're like, okay, well, it's that, but it's actually so much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit more about this and how we can manipulate and change form with this, because I believe Tesla even did some research in this area.
Oh, this is just going to give me chills again. So I don't even remember when I started seeing as this symbol that we're going to show you all a little bit later. And it's always just been there, and I've always brought it in. And there's a saying that I work with, and it's about the pyramid on top of the pyramid creates a life-giving form. And then in that life-giving form, we bring in the hydrogen atom, and the hydrogen atom creates a spin. And within the spin, within this symbol, it creates the ability to bring in what I call divine expression. And right when that happens and they all fold together and the expression comes through, we have the ability in that moment, when we stay in a level of consciousness that is connected to that, to shift form. And okay, now I'm going to tell you my funny story, because we've been practicing just on our faces. Is like, okay, well, let's go into this, let's do it. And so we've been doing little facelifts on ourselves. And there was one day that we were practicing, and I wasn't paying attention to how I was holding the form of my face. And when we got done, I'm not even kidding it, my eyelids were like and they were like stuck right like all the way up here, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to bring this back down, because we had literally shifted form, and my face was we were just laughing so hard, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is not only is this working, but now we have this on video and we're showing it. And it was just really funny. But we were, of course, then we're, okay, if we can shift form in that way, what other things are we going to do? And I'm getting chills because some of the stuff that we've been seeing is, most people would say is make believe.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to add anything about the hydrogen atom, Charan?
Well, other than when I remember when you told me about that, I remember sort of when we were tuning into that what came to me was, water is like the basic element of life, and we are made up of 70 to 80% water. And there's two hydrogen atoms that are connected to the oxygen, which make up the water. And when we were discussing that, what came to me was that those hydrogen atoms, water holds memory, obviously, and we know that. And the hydrogen atoms were creating a field that was bringing in that memory to the water, and the water then was going through the fascia and the electrical impulse of the hydrogen atoms and creating so if you want to look at epigenetics, then that would be the body then would respond to that memory in the body as a result of what was held in the water. So with the work that we've been doing with the facelifting and all of that, recognizing that it's the memories, the beliefs and things that are held in the water. And if we can come from, instead of coming from the outside in, but to come from the inside out, as we've already said, that changes the memory of that water, if you like, to connect it with divine. And so aging is a belief. And when we turn it around, that's where then anything is possible.
How does consciousness play a role? Jules, you said that if we can stay at that level of consciousness, how does that play a role in what you guys experimented with facelifts? What's happening there?
Well, for me, consciousness is everything. I say it all the time that our reality is a reflection of our state of consciousness. And depending on what state of consciousness we hold or that we exist in for the longer periods of time, it will shift our reality. And with this, so much of the work that we've been doing together is finding that very specific place where we're able to move into expression or projection and not pulling energy in. Because so many times it's really interesting when we're going in and we're always in observation. We're like, oh, well, this is happening and this is going on and I see this. And so there's always that place. Well, with this work that we're doing, we're learning how to actually just be in the expression. And it's a very interesting place to be and an interesting place to work in, but it's that place and then bringing that in, of course, to whatever it is that we're doing. And my passion is to bring that into the DNA itself, because if the DNA is in expression and it's not an observation. So what I mean by that is that it's not going outside of itself to decide, where am I, what am I doing, am I safe, all of those things, and we're actually just in the expression of the divine, then there's no need for observation. So our bodies become our mind, and there's no separation between the mind and the body anymore. And that for me is, some people call it the light body, some people call it the new human, the divine expression. At that point, our bodies are no longer an illusion because we're holding the level of consciousness of the divine.
Mm-hmm.
What, do you have something to add to that, Charan? I mean, we both have a kind of our passion within this.
Well, exactly what you said. And the what I want to add to that is that, you know, the DNA expression, we've really been, the dogma around that has been that if you are born with a certain genetics, certain DNA, you know, from your mom and dad, that's all there's going to be, and you're destined to be that way. But when we connect with that internal divine and come from the inside out, as you said, Jules, you know, with not coming from any judgment, but just witnessing the expression of it, that changes everything, because the DNA has the ability to respond and it's not written in stone, and you can change the way that it's expressed.
As we learn more information about people who've brought their light body on online fully, they too corroborate what you guys are saying with their understanding of this expression begins from the inside. So I absolutely love that you guys are saying that we can take something and turn it around and express it from the inside out. So we're going to use a couple of examples here. In our world, let's go to the pandemic. Let's go to some fear. When we've got there's a virus out there that could affect someone's health, and that's a little bit of fear. How could this, what would you say would be able to turn this around? How do you get there into from that observation mode into expression mode? That's just one example. You can use the virus in our pandemic or anything else like 5G, right? Or wrinkles or weight. It's really everything. And so it's again shifting from observation mode into expression mode.
Let's just take a one step back and just understand the physiology of the body. And that whenever we are in a place where we have fear, no matter what that is, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's to do with 5G, whether it's to do with something happening in our own lives, whatever it is, there is the body picking up. As I said, the DNA is like an antenna, it picks up on what's going on and it will respond. So whatever is going on, the body will pick it up and register it as being you being in survival or growth. And when you're in survival, the physiological response will be that you'll increase the amount of cortisol in the body. And so then the inflammation in the body increases. So what we want to talk about is really that if you go from being observation to the expression of the divine, observation meaning you're observing what's showing up and you're in judgment of what is present in your life. So whatever is out there, you're in judgment. So that brings fear with it. But when you turn it around and you come from the expression of the divine, everything outside of you is that. There is nothing that's not you. And so then that changes everything. And so your physiological response then goes out of fear, and then you get a decrease in inflammation. Obviously, that's just one of the side effects, but you literally can change how things show up for you, your body, and in your life, no matter what is going on outside. Jules?
Yeah, I call it becoming neutral or neutralizing frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like what Charan was saying, it's not about judging what it is that's coming. Whether it's the virus or the things that we do to overcome the virus or whatever it is, that anything that we're fearing outside of ourselves, is that when we have the ability to turn that inside out, and then we become the divine expression, and then our energy can go out to whatever frequencies that are existing outside of ourselves and create neutrality. Because if I like to see it like the sun, so if you're the sun and the sun is shining, you it doesn't matter. You never need to bring in anything from outside of yourself in order to shine. You're always shining. And whatever is shining is being affected by that light. And that light is basically touching everything. And within that space, it's taking on the energy of the sun. And in that point, we can actually create neutral. But people are like, well, how do I do that if I'm in fear? And so let's just bring this down to like something really practical is, so this is the way I see it. So this is you, and you're walking along and you're just in your happy space. And then all of a sudden you meet a frequency that hits you. And at that moment, we have the opportunity to either be in resistance, or we have the ability to actually meet the frequency until it's neutralized. And it's funny when I say that, because I can almost hear everybody saying, yeah, but that means I agree with it, or that means I'll become it. But this is, and this is science, that no two frequencies that are the same can create change. So if you meet the frequency and you neutralize it, no change is made, so it cannot affect you in any way. What creates the change is this, because
Mhm.
there's two different frequency patterns that are hitting, and they will create the change. And with, depending on what our belief system is within that change, if we believe that if a change comes into my system, it will change my system, then guess what? That's the change that will be created. If we believe that whatever comes into my system will be neutralized and will be the same, then the same thing happens.
So let's put an example in there, because here we have a vaccine that some are very concerned about. If there gets to be a state where it's mandatory for travel or for normalcy in our motions and freedom of the planet, what we're saying is that we can shift this from the inside out so that we can literally change the frequency. So share with us, what would we do? And we're going to do a process here really shortly, but what would we do for those who are concerned about it? What would you do for getting the vaccine?
Well, the first thing that both Sharon and I've been working on is that we're creating a belief system that if it is something that we had come into our bodies, that it would actually amplify our wellness, our vitality, our ascension, all of those things. So we have already started, and then we'll do a little bit of a process today around that. But and it's funny how just changing the belief system around it and not moving into the collective or the fear pattern, because there's really two paradigms that are happening. Well, in this paradigm, anything that we bring into our reality is going to be there to amplify ascension. So with the vaccine, if it's taken in the new paradigm, it's going to amplify ascension. And now that we've been kind of playing in this space, and it's been a lot of fun to play in it, there's a part of me that feels like if I and I'm not saying I'm going to, but if I were to get it, there's almost excitement around it. And I'll say the same thing happened with the COVID virus. It got to the place where I was excited to get it. And when I did get it was surreal, and it was just this very amazing experience. And I know the same exact thing will be true for the vaccine if I ever chose to get it.
All right. So for those who are not familiar, I want you to share just a little bit about that, because again, you had a daughter and you were caring for your daughter, and you got it and your other daughter got this. And so your consciousness with this. It's not saying we're being flagrant and going out there, but the fear, you were able to turn that around. Of course, we all do our best, but that when you were in that moment, that was incredible. So share that. What happened? What was that like?
So for me, I one of my superpowers is tracing energy patterns. And of course, when my daughter got it and she started showing symptoms, I being in the same blood, I would trace her blood and I was able to actually trace it in my own body since we obviously share DNA. And it was fascinating, though I was still in the observation of it because it wasn't within my own experience. And I could tell that when it was inside of her body that a change was being made. And once I actually could see that the change was being made, I was able to go in to the change and create neutrality. But what I realized is that the neutrality that I was creating wasn't because I didn't want her to have symptoms. It was because the energy that was coming in was there to amplify the part of her that was ready to move into a higher frequency. And that was actually, so in that case, the change that was coming in was actually a positive change. And instead, if she, if we had held the belief that it's a negative change, then that would have been the experience that would had. But when she actually together, she had hit it and it was able to create a positive change. She went from laying on the couch with a temperature to playing games and hanging out with her sister within hours because the change created a higher frequency and her body accepted it and she immediately moved on. And knowing that and going through that by just observing her experience with it, I of course was able to do that and then trace the energy pattern all the way to what I call its origin. And it was within that experience, like it's gosh, it's just like it takes my breath away because it's just one of those things that when you're in it and you're in the experience, it's the, call it a God moment or call it the divine presence, but it overcomes you in such a way that it's almost paralyzing. And it's like you can't have judgment in that moment. There is no good or bad, it just is. And if you actually can enter that space without the resistance pattern, it is so beyond our mind to try to understand it is only minimizing what it is because there is no way that we can understand what this is actually doing. It's just impossible. We can't hold it.
There is so much belief, collective belief around the planet about this being something to fear. And I know that there has been a lot of devastation and I know people have died and all of that's happened, but we on our own can take a responsibility to come out of the fear place and not add to the fear that's on the planet, because again, that goes from what we were, Jules, exactly what you did there. It's to go out of the place of what is done, where you're going out of observation and into the expression. That can completely, and you just showed that, that it completely changes things around. I'll share what happened with me. And that was my husband was literally at work and he was in a car with someone that had the virus and she was starting to show symptoms. And he was in the car with her for 40 minutes. And she ended up in hospital on the weekend. And so obviously he got tested and we were just waiting for the results. And I text Jules and we were sort of, working through that. And I know, I remember telling you, Jules, like there's that feeling of like, I just feel really good. I don't feel any fear. I just feel so neutral. And literally just staying in that space through the period before he got his results. And literally he was negative. And, and it just felt like just being in that space. I mean, I don't know, but I know that the fact that our own mind, the way that where we are, how we feel, if we can go out of the observation, be in neutrality, and come from that divine inside, then things change on the outside completely.
Yes, absolutely. And those who study reality shifters, there's books on this. They are actually doing what you guys are doing. They are shifting their vibration to an inner knowing. So they can do that with realities. You guys are doing it here with the physical body. Very beautiful work. Let's do a short process for everyone to experience this. And then we're going to let everyone know how they can work with this in their own lives with your special offer. So let's do this now. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen and bring up the image so that in the middle is the hydrogen atom. So let's just all focus on the image, and if it feels right at any time during the process to shut your eyes, please do so. And then we'll just start to breathe in, and when you're breathing in, you're going to breathe in the hydrogen atom, and it's going to come in right through your nose and go right around your brain, and then moving down the spinal column and then out through your mouth. So this is the breath that we will start with.
And I love bringing in the color like you've done before, Jules. You know, the color of the blue that you breathe in, and feeling the energy of that coming down the spine and up. And just allowing your breath to become one with all of your cells as you feel that energy circulating around.
And then we'll just go ahead and just bring this image, and you can see it just kind of moving into the belly of the cell, and you can just feel whatever cell. I'm going to be working on the collective, so we'll be working with the universal cell in the center of the brain. And as it's entering, it's raising the frequency of the body to divine expression. And then we're just going to allow it to move right into the nucleus of the cell.
As you feel this, feel like you're inside a temple that is the shape of a star, and that you are the cell of the universe. And it's just like being the sun beaming, a state of presence as you feel this symbol just circulating throughout you.
And then if there's anything that's coming to you that you feel that you're in resistance to within your life, go ahead and just bring it right through the center of the hydrogen atom and allowing it to neutralize and raise in frequency. And as it moves through, it moves right through the double helix and connects with the divine expression or the God particle. And just feeling that as it's neutralizing and raising in frequency. And within that space, just bring your consciousness into the creation of God or your divine, and allow your consciousness to become one. And in that space, allow it to move back into the expression through the double helix and out into the cell, out into your body, and out into your reality.
where there is no judgment of anything. It's just a pure expression of your true being. Whether it's in your cells or any particular issue that is outside or perceived as being outside of you. And as you feel this, anything that comes up regarding the issues on the outside that almost feel like you're coming up against them, just witness them from this place. And as you do, just notice what begins to happen to the energy of it.
You could even bring the image to your mind and see it expanding out to encompass whatever reality you move into, but also knowing that you have the ability to create a reality within this space, and just playing, just feeling what it feels like to play. And just feel how that energy shifted right when we brought in the play. We don't have to be serious. This is co-creation. This is the divine coming in and creating the new earth.
There comes a sense of joy in that playfulness. That is your natural state. It's the natural state of being. Very childlike and pure.
And just knowing that you have the ability to create change or create the shifts in your life from this space, because within this space, you are in connection with the divine, and you're creating change from a place of joy and not because you're in resistance to what is there. So go ahead and just bring this image and allow whatever resistance that's in your life to just move right through the hydrogen atom, creating neutrality, allowing the vibration of your body to raise, allowing your thoughts to move into the divine mind, and know that you are an expression of divine form. That feels complete to me.
What a powerful tool to really bring us into that space. Can you imagine the world coming from that space? That's the mission that you both are on, helping people move through resistance, come into the neutrality with no judgment. The image itself was very interesting. Hydrogen atom, Metatron's cube. How did you come up with that image? You want to share?
So that image it's been coming to me. I actually am not really sure how long. And it was interesting because I have a new podcast channel that I'm launching, and they wanted an image to put on it, and I had just one of them because I work a lot with the pyramid. And so I created the pyramid, I created the images, and they actually did an amazing job of coming back with almost exactly what I had drawn. And as Charan and I've been working, and we've been working a lot with the pyramid on top of the pyramid and all of that, I was like, oh my gosh, well, is all we have to do is actually turn this upside down and have two of them, and then it created the exact image that we had been working with. And so it's funny how it just like came and it clicked, and we were just like, yes, that's it. But the image itself is in the frequency pattern of evolution itself. And I think what I love about that is that there's no limit at that point, because it's always in the next frequency pattern, because evolution never ends. And evolution of mankind, evolution of consciousness, evolution of cellular expression, evolution of divine frequencies. And I think that when we're in that space, that we're always skipping over the illusion of the now moment, and we're connecting to the frequency pattern of the next. And that's really how we do our work, is it's not meeting the frequency pattern of what we say is now, but it's meeting the frequency pattern of what's being created after that. And that is what this symbol does, is gives us the ability to connect into the frequency that's coming after, by holding the level of consciousness that is in, well, divine expression.
I don't know if you want to share, Jules. I remember you sent me a picture when we came with the symbol, and it was all like we were all excited about it. And then you sent me that picture of the Ormus in the moon. Do you remember that?
Yes. Okay, so I was making Ormus, and I think it was on the 21st. It was that December 21st when the second wave was coming in. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to make all this Ormus. And I had the symbol laying on top of, I think I had it on the bottle. I can't remember if it was on top or on, but I had a couple of different bottles going. And the one that had the symbol on it, the Ormus was like almost 4 times what it was in the other bottles. And I don't know if people know about Ormus, but you can tell where the Ormus is because it has a cloudy white color to it. And it was incredible to see the difference just by adding the symbol, how much Ormus was created.
Let's talk about how people can work with this, because you've got a way that people can really begin to work with this in that space of neutrality, in a space of immunity, really, and being the master of our lives. And this is powerful. We have 3 options here. We have the evolution immunity process, recording of an immunity process to support your body in holding the frequency patterns of health and vitality. That's what you were saying. That's the frequency of after this now moment, right? So that is one package.
In that one, you also get a PDF of the symbol that was just up. And we give you different ways of actually working with it. Of course, one way would be to add it to your water, either by placing your water on it, or put it, even better, printing it out and putting it on your water bottle. The idea behind that, or the process behind that, is just like Charan was talking about earlier, is that water has a memory, and that when we're bringing it into our bodies, it's creating change. And so what we're doing with this symbol is we're changing the molecular structure of the water, and in turn changing the molecular structure of our bodies to hold those higher vibrational frequency patterns. And of course, with the process, that the recording of the process, we can teach you how, it teaches you how to kind of neutralize when you need it. Because we're always gonna come up with resistance, and it's what we do within that resistance. We can create the choice and actually move into neutrality by using tools like this, or we can actually meet the resistance and create the reality around that. And I love how you were talking earlier about reality shifters, because I have to say that that's probably my biggest passion. But my biggest passion is to actually bring that into physical form. And so I'm going to go ahead and tell you one little story of how well this works the more we work with it. So it's Christmas, and I was making something for my daughters, and I took out a really hot pan, a 50-degree pan out of the oven. And my daughters and I were just playing and having fun. And I went to go pick up the pan with my bare hand. And I picked it up and realized what I had done, and immediately, of course, put it down. And I thought in that moment, this is going to be really bad. The girls were both looking at me like, oh my gosh. And it was funny that my initial reaction is I turned and I hugged my daughter, because I was like, this is going to hurt so bad. I know I did something really bad. And I thought, no, don't meet that frequency pattern. And by the time that I let go of my daughter and we both looked down at my hand, it had already healed.
That is a reality shift. You have cracked the code. All right, that's beautiful. So I love what you said, where you're not going to go into the resistance of that. That's, it's because of our experience in the past. It's fact, really, that if you touch a hot pan, you will be burned. But you were able to shift it. And this is using the tool and using what you've created to really not meet that resistance. So, so what was that shift like then? Was it immediate, or you just held the frequency? You held that frequency.
It wasn't even that I had to hold the frequency. It was more about, as soon as I realized that I had those two paradigms. I had the paradigm of where, yes, that is a reality, but I also had the paradigm where I could bring whatever frequency of this reality was and bring it right through the hydrogen atom, the symbol, the frequency pattern that is available to us. And it wasn't like I had to think about it. It would just happen. I just had to remember that it was there and then just have it happen. But what we talked about, and this is where it starts to get really fun, is that we move into the best way to explain this, I think that people can understand, is how we do the facelift. Is so when you're bringing your fingers across your face like this, that you're not thinking, oh, I want my face to look like this. Well, I mean, not like that, but as not that I want like that, but you're not visualizing what you want it to do. You're just connecting to the frequency pattern of what it is like when it goes there. And so it's just this really fine place where we're not making it happen, we're not seeing it happen. We're just connecting to the energy of right after the now moment that is existing in that frequency. And it's a lot of fun. Like when we're saying this is fun, it is so fun. That's kind of what we start to teach in package B with, but we'll go ahead and we'll get to that.
But it was just that the symbol is, what we were talking about earlier about being an observation or being an expression. And so, with the facelifting and with, what happened with your hand and all of that, is that it's just a simple, I know it sounds really, but it's playful, like you just said, Jules. It's like going from that observation into the expression, and just there's a knowing of that. And with what the symbol does is actually, when you put it on your water, it allows your body to acclimatize to that frequency, so that you then can become the expression. If water holds memory, then that symbol is helping you to acclimatize to that, which is your divine expression.
Yes, and I love how we're reaching for the frequency after this now moment. Yes, that's another key indicator. So, all right, I love that. So the first package there is that recording. That's a real simple way to just start and begin working with this tool. With the PDF of that image, we can start learning how to bring it into our life. And then the next option, there's two more because they're so good at how you bring this together. The other one is a workshop, a live Zoom meeting with both Jules and Dr. Charan on how you can really put this into your life, and you can ask questions and all of that. So talk about what that workshop is about. What will we learn?
Charan, I'll let you take this one.
Well, it's going to be the energy. What comes to me straight away is the energy of our collaboration that's come through. Like from the moment we both knew that we were going to collaborate, we didn't know how it was going to show up, and here we are. There's an expression of that divinity that's coming through that is going to be co-creating with the people on that call. we're going to bring what we have got so far, to that group and teach that to them and help them with that. But the co-creation is going to continue, and I know that. Jules, you can carry on.
Oh gosh, I just got chills when you said that. And you know what that says to me is that it's just the beginning. And as much as I would love to say what it's going to be like, it's probably going to be so much different than anything that we say right now, because we're going to evolve so much further from where we are right now, that once we get into the group and we're actually going into the place where we're sharing it with others, it's going to be so much bigger. But all I can say is that the feedback that we're getting so far with just kind of playing in this frequency and giving it to people to try is already changing people's lives. And I mean, in huge ways. We're talking about being in pain for 20 years and not even realizing that they weren't in pain, because they're in a frequency where they didn't even have the reflection that they were ever in pain. And these are the things, these are the possibilities that we have to move into. And it becomes the practice of playing in how to create the neutrality, but also to hold those higher levels of frequency to where that reality just doesn't exist.
But it's also that adding to that is that when we work in a group, we all know that the amplification of the energies is huge. So we're really looking forward to playing with that.
Yes, all right, perfect. So that is another option. And we also have a third option. This is 3 days with you for those who really want to deep dive. And it's not just an online workshop, there's a few more things in there. Tell us about that option.
So this one, I have to say, it came to us because we were trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do and how are we going to do this? And when it came through that we were going to do a 3-day retreat, I am so excited about doing this because it's going to be 3 days of fully integrating into this frequency. And so we're going to be doing 2 workshops, or not workshops, but gatherings a day, and having a process that you work through in a 3-day period. And it's going to be called evolution because each person is going to choose what it is that they want to work on within the sacred space. And there's no way that by the end of this that you will not shift in whatever it is that of that evolutional process, whether it's pain, whether it's spirituality, whatever it is going to shift. And you'll have the tools, and your body will be able to resonate in the frequency to be able to move beyond that. And what we recognized after talking about the retreat, and it's continuing to unfold, but that we're going to actually offer 2 integration workshops afterwards, because we realize that those integrations after you leave that frequency are going to probably be the most important ones, because we all need to learn how to be able to hold those frequencies when we're faced with lower frequency realities. Do you have something to add to that, Charan?
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, when we were feeling into the retreat and, as things were evolving with how we were going to and what we were going to do on the retreat, I remember we were initially, when everything was coming together, and the Atlantean energy that we were just talking about earlier, and the temple, and how all that was sort of in the energy field of the symbol and all of this, we felt that the actual retreat was going to be as if we were in this temple, and that it was this sacred energy that is going to come through. And this energy has been working through both of us, in a way that we're here now, and everything is here with all the technology. And so in those 3 days, we want to take people through that, into that place of where we've been, where we've had things unfold. And for that to then unravel in their lives as well, and for them to connect with that. Because we were talking, I know, Jules, we were saying how we had a vision that everyone was going to be connected to this frequency of the, the divine. And so for us, really, it's connecting people with that and bringing up the frequency of the planet really through that.
That's beautiful. And the other part that in this one, and you'll see that there's a shipping fee on this, is that we're going to have an actual sacred grid so that the symbol will go on it. And whatever it is that you're working on in your personal evolution within this, is that you'll be working with very specific patterns within that grid. And it teaches you how to move into that frequency pattern of that next moment within the frequency pattern of the grid, because when you're doing it, that's what you're doing when you're working with the grid itself, so that your body begins to have a cellular memory of actually how to start to work with that. Because if you think about our now moment, each one of those is an illusion, because once you are connected to the now moment, you're actually in a future pattern. And which science is showing is that our future pattern is the second strongest pattern that we have. So your past is actually the strongest one, the now doesn't even exist, and your future is the second one. And so what we teach you to do is to gather up all the frequency of your past, bring it through the illusion of the now, and then be able to expand that energy into a higher frequency in order to create higher frequency changes through the divine expression. So it's going to be an amazing workshop. People, there's just no way you can be the same after that, because the frequency itself is just going to be life changing. I'm so excited. You can tell I'm excited about it. I don't get excited about things very often, and I am really excited about this.
Thank you for that. All right. And so each of those package options include the option before, right?
Yes.
All right. That's a really cool. Thank you for that. We really appreciate it. This is something from two beautiful, I want to call you both pioneers in this field. You really are putting the science and the spirituality together in this. And it, again, it corroborates the frequency that we know of New Earth. As we know that New Earth is a frequency, we are being assisted by your work, both of your teachings that allow us to leave those old frequencies, to get out of that resistance, to come into that neutrality and reach for the frequencies that literally change our world and change our life. And that is extraordinary. I just want to say kudos to both of you. And I know that this will resonate in the hearts of many. So if this resonates with you, viewers and listeners, go ahead and check this out and get registered for those packages. Check them out and see if it really is something that fits in your life. So thank you so much for this. It is beautiful. Playing is really key, but the neutrality is key. And then that word resistance, those are like three optimal words to really be aware of and to, gosh, integrate and be present with, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all of that.
Thank you so much both for being here. I want to give you a moment to share about, let's say, each of you, the why. Why is this so important to your mission work, this new collaboration?
As I said earlier, both of us, we discovered that our mission is really to eradicate disease. And that's when we talk about the new earth, it's not about going into the physical and changing matter for matter. It's literally about going to the place where it's already done. It is that, it is perfection. And when you enter that space, then the body, the DNA, everything responds.
It is all of that. And the piece that came through as she was speaking is that everything really is an illusion, and even physical form is an illusion, and death is an illusion, and it's what we can do within that illusion that is true, and that is change. It's everything is always in a consistent frequency of change, and being able to use that to our advantage, or use that to change the world, I mean, that just gives me chills, because then we become limitless. And it's so that's what this is all about. I think that's just what both of us have really tapped into and are starting to play in.
Well, we thank you both so much, because this is the evolution of humanity, and it is all about frequency. And you are leading the way by your own examples and by the tremendous work that now you're both offering in collaboration together. So thank you both so much for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Again, if you would like to register, you can find the link to this beautiful program on this webpage.